One to ever interview me.
Hey, folks, this is Bruce Hutchin, the host and executive producer of Whitetail Rendezvous. And I'm really privileged to have a fellow Coloradan today, and he lives down by Durango. His name is Brandon Waddell. Some people call him Waddell, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But anyway, Brandon is the host of Wilderness Attitude, and Brandon definitely does have an attitude, and
Every
that
now and then.
we'll get involved in that. But folks, welcome to the show, and Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bruce. I'm really glad to be here. I appreciate you reaching out and having me on. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome, because I've been watching you since you started. And one, you're from Durango area. It's Hesperus. Is that how you say it?
Yep, you nailed it. Hesperus, Colorado. Yep, it's just about 12 miles, 13 miles west of Durango, Colorado. Yep.
Yeah, and that's in oak brush country, isn't it?
Hesperus is right on that edge. We're basically at the southern tip of the Rocky Mountains, kind of the gateway to the Southwest. And so, you can go 45 minutes north and be at 12,000 feet pretty quick. Or you can go 45 minutes south and you're in the desert water skiing on warm water. So it's, some refer to it a little bit as the banana belt because you're kind of in the Rockies and you're kind of not. And so, but it's a great place to be, I can tell you that.
Well, it's down by the San Juan River too. Is San Juan Farmington and the San Juan River isn't too far away, is it?
Yeah, that's a good 60 miles or so south of us, maybe 45. But the San Juan comes out of Navajo Lake, which is the lake I'm referring to. You can go down there and water ski all you want, and of course, the San Juan dumps out of Navajo Lake, and that is gold medal waters. That is some of the best fly fishing you can get your hands on.
Yeah, I agreed. And we used to go down there and stay. What the name of the guys? It was A's Motel right there on the San Juan, that little community that's right there, and we caught a lot of trout.
Downriver
Just
from there is a cool place. The canyon down below Navajo Dam has some cool people, cool scenery, and now they got the wine of the San Juans down there. So now you can be down there in fishing land and in wine country, I guess, at the same time.
I did not. It's been a few years since I've been down there. I did not realize that. It was, we were drinking beer when we were down there.
Right? Well, each to their own flavor, right?
That's pretty much it. We're digressing, folks, but just a little background. If you've never traveled in the southwestern Colorado, it's this gorgeous, gorgeous country, and in the wintertime, it's not hot, so you can just enjoy it. And there's some beautiful vistas and Mesa Verde's down there. I mean, there's history that goes back thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, Mesa Verde is right, not 30 miles from Hesperus. Um, and then, of course, you got the $1 Million Highway that goes up out of Durango through Silverton and Ouray and Ridgeway and cruises around to Telluride and back over into Mancos. Um, it it's by far, and maybe I'm prejudiced because I live in that area, but it is by far the most beautiful scenic drive in the United States, in my opinion. People come from all around the world to come and drive the $1 Million Loop, and it gets its name from when they first built that road. I'd be butchering the date, but it was a long time ago that it cost $1 million to make that road, and we all know now that that road would probably be $1 trillion to build.
Yeah, it's just, and it follows the Animas River. I mean, it's just gorgeous country. And one thing, if you don't know about Durango, you can kayak right down through town.
Yeah, that's kind of cool too, right? We've
Yeah.
got it all there. We have spectacular hunting, amazing fishing. The whitewater going through town is great. The whitewater coming out of Silverton is deathly. You better be at the top of your game to do the upper Animus. And we've got ice climbing in Ouray where they do the world championships. We were the first area to host the World Mountain Bike Championships in '91, and we've had it a few more times. Our area is where a lot of people go to train in the outdoors. Even downhill skiers and Sean White built a amazing facility up out of Silverton to do his training for a couple of his Olympic Games as well, is my understanding. Um, I mean, we have everything there: jeeping, camping, hike. I mean, it's the ultimate wilderness community.
So, state of Colorado and the Durango area has a plug that's going to go out to thousands of people.
Well, it doesn't need any help. Outside Magazine, everybody votes, Durango and somewhere in the top 5 all the time. It's a great place. And we have that amazing train, right? The Durango narrow gauge train that goes from Durango to Silverton. There's only 2 of those left in the world. So that's pretty cool too in its own sense.
And then and help me with this, Winniminooch Wilderness Area is huge.
Yeah, the Wee-Manooch is an amazing wilderness area. Um, it's some place that I'll be hunting the goat and the sheep at some point, and hopefully preparing myself for Alaska. But I've talked to plenty of people in Alaska that have come and hunt the Wee-Manooch, and they say that it's got its own level as well. It's an amazing, amazing wilderness. There's something for everybody in there.
And one night thing, a neat thing about hunting uh, the mooch, what's the nickname for it? What do they call it? Just
Maybe some call it the Nooch, but um, I don't know. It's just the
yeah.
Wee
Anyway,
Manooch.
it doesn't matter.
It deserves its full name because it's that epic. Let's just leave it at that.
So you're gonna hike. You're gonna not hike. You're gonna take the narrow gauge railway out of Durango. You're gonna get off one of the trailheads, goes up in the Chicago Basin, but so you're east of the Animas, and then you start climbing. I mean, there's no huts, there's no hostels, there's no nothing. Everything you have is in your back, and it is wilderness. It just
It's
and the vistas are unbelievable, and just the experience of being in those high alpine basins is worth the price of admission, whether you hunt or not. You know.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want an epic adventure, you take the train up there, just like you said, and you get up through Chicago Basin, and you go find yourself somewhere to sit. And trust me, you will not be disappointed. It will be hard work to get where you're at. You're talking some good vertical to get there, but it is worth every penny. If you can get up there and watch a few sunrises and sunsets, you can mark something pretty epic off your bucket list. That's for sure.
Yeah, and in the lower 48, yeah, you can get up by in the Tetons, and there's some wild places. There's no question about it. But the Winniminooch is one of those wild places that can't be duplicated. I mean, and it goes on forever. That's the
It's
other thing
it's
about it.
it's enormous. I'm sure there's still places in the Weemanooch where nobody's ever been, um, and never will. Maybe I don't know. It's grand. That's for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, there's another shout out for the different things. But Brandon and I talked about it. One thing that he and I both espouse to is real people in real places. And yeah, we're going to talk about hunting. We're going to talk about some of life's challenges and what it takes to be physically fit to get into Chicago Basin. I mean, because I wouldn't do that, out of shape. That's for darn sure. So let's just segue into that and let's talk about. We're going to give another plug, wilderness athlete, and you wanted to lose some weight and things came together. So tell us that story.
Well, I went to Pope and Young convention back in Phoenix, closing on about 3 years ago, and I, I'd been building a trucking company, and I literally was working really hard for my family and me, and building this company, and in the meantime, I really lost the aspect of taking care of myself. Um, I found myself at the Pope and Young show. I was entering in a raffle. I sat down with Chris Denham in the booth and talked to him briefly about his products and some of his stuff. And Chris Chris sat down with me and really talked to me, and we got really deep really quick because I was really passionate about wanting to find some way, a new level of changing my life, um, my health, and my philosophy on eating, and just a lot of different things. And so he sold me. So when all the tickets I bought, I put them all in the wilderness athlete bucket. I didn't spread them out for anything else in this show, in the silent auction. I put them all in that bucket, and I won some 28-day challenges from wilderness athlete. And I got home, and it took me about a month to kind of get it put together and kind of start. Sometimes it's hard to start um, a life change because it wasn't something that I was taking very lightly. So anyway, I did a few 28-day challenges, and I lost 35 pounds, and I got after it in the gym, and I found myself the year before in elk season in a bad situation because of my health and my fitness, and so I really wanted to work hard to get more prepared for the hunting season, and so I did that. I got up every day at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I went to the gym, and then I'd hurry home and get my kids, take them to school, and then go to work, and I did that every day for 6 months, and it was amazing the mental transformation I went through during that period of time as well. And when I hit my hunting season, it's the best hunting season I've ever had. I was able to arrow a bull and a cow and a buck and a doe and a bear. I mean, I had an epic season. The only thing I still can't figure out is how to hit a turkey. But it changed my life, and it's brought me full circle to even having the Wilderness Attitude podcast. When I was working out after the hunting season, I was still working out outside in the elements and doing some things, and I was always in a wilderness athlete shirt. Always, always, because I was so happy and so proud to be a part of something like that I always wore their stuff because it really resonated for me and it really meant something to me, and how it changed my life. And so then the next thing I know, I found out about this train to hunt thing like before Thanksgiving, and I started looking into that, and I was like, I'm gonna keep training through the winter, and I want to go to this train to hunt deal. I want to see if I can finish a train to hunt. I didn't have any clue what to expect, and so I went in there very humble and ready to see what I was made of, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea, is to go see where you're at in your level for your hunting, and do the competition and see if there's something you can work on to get you prepared for your hunting season, and a little bit of a barometer, right? And so a year to the day, which was pretty crazy, a year to the day that I started my first 28-day challenge was the first Tucson event, or actually it was in Phoenix actually that year. So I went down there and competed, and to my surprise, I made the podium, and I got third place, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I had no clue what I was capable of, with my new mindset, my new body, my new strength, my new will, and I'll tell you what, I can't thank Kevin and at Wilderness Athlete, or Chris, or Courtney, or any of the team there. They, especially Chris, sitting down with me in that booth, having not known me from Adam to Apple, right? And he he spoke to me passionately, and that changed my life. I owe so much to him. I can't even express it. I don't have enough lifetime to express to him how much it meant to me.
Have you had him on the show? Have had Chris on the show?
No, it looks like Chris is coming on maybe here in the next couple weeks. So we've talked back and forth quite a bit. He's a busy guy. I mean, with Western Hunter, all this stuff he's got going on, it's crazy. He's a hard one to lock down, but we've had some really good conversations. In fact, this last year, I had hip surgery a little over a year ago in December, so I didn't get to compete and train and hunt this year, and so I spent my time next to Chris, humping that mountain, and next to that box, cheering him on and helping him with water and doing anything I could to help him out. And he's amazing. For his age, he is a beast. He's a beast.
How old is he?
Well, let's see. He's in the Super Masters, so he's over 50. That's all I can tell you. I don't know his exact age, but he's in the Super Masters of Train to Hunt, and man, I'll tell you what, that guy can grind. I mean, he can grind. And I hope I'm in the shape he's in his 50s. I can tell you that.
Well, I'll just give a shout out to Jesse Paulson, and
Oh, I should have mentioned Jesse. Yeah, sorry.
I just did. I just did. But anyway, Jesse and a friend of mine, Jerry Kerber, at Fit to Hunt, got together. We got together about a year. Well, heck, it'll be 2 years, and I drew an archery sheep tag here in Colorado. So I went from 230 something to 212, and I spent 22 days above 10,000 feet and
Wow.
climbed my first 14ers looking for sheep. I wasn't climbing a 14er. I was
Right?
looking for sheep.
So, sometimes that's where you're going to go to find sheep, right, Bruce?
Holy
Crazy.
right, but I'll just give a shout out right now to Jesse. He couldn't have been nicer to me through the nutrition work and everything that they did for me. So you got two guys here, folks, that understand who Wilderness Athlete is, understands what their products can do, and you can transform yourself. And let's stay right here because I'm going to introduce this portion. So spent a couple bucks, you won a couple bucks, I spent a couple bucks, and they promoted me a couple bucks, and all of a sudden I'm in the wilderness. I'm doing what I want to do. And it gives you confidence. One thing it gave me was confidence because I knew there wasn't anything in Colorado I couldn't handle. I mean,
Mm,
literally.
right.
There wasn't. Am I going to be the fastest guy up the mountain? Hell no. It ain't going to happen. But will I get up the mountain? Yes. And will I get down the mountain? Yes, as you can attest to yourself, Brandon. And so let's talk about why the bedrock of any hunting season needs to be physical fitness and correct nutrition. And we can work it right in together.
Look, after my journey in the beginning there with Wilderness Athlete, it became very apparent to me that you got to be in shape. I mean, you may not be in the best shape you've ever been in your life. We're none of us are 18 anymore or 25. I mean, some of you listening may be, but um, as you grow older, it plays a more critical part in being able to do what you want to do. There's times where, like for me, the year before when I got myself in trouble, my mind had full intentions of doing whatever it wanted to do, but my body couldn't keep up with where this wanted to go, and and where I needed to go to get the interaction with the animals that I desired. As an archery hunter, you gotta make some moves. You gotta get yourself in places where you have the opportunity to make your kill. And so for me, if you've got good health and you're in anything you can put into being in better shape, anything you can do to eat cleaner, get out of the middle of the store and work the outsides, talk to people that raise vegetables and do different things, and hopefully you can put yourself in a place where you're putting lean meat in your freezer, right? Um, and I just think that it's super valuable to have a cleaner body and one that's in better shape because, like you mentioned, it puts you in a better mindset. It puts you in a different place. It raises your self-esteem. It raises that confidence level. It raises your ability. And let's be honest, this hunting's not getting easier every year. Hunting's getting harder every year because you're growing older, there's more people in the backcountry, and there's, not as much opportunity, right? So sometimes you got to create that opportunity and hope that then luck follows you. But if you don't, but if you're not in the physical shape and mental clarity to be able to go do some of that, then your experiences and some of what you might be able to accomplish, I feel, is going to be limited.
Yeah, and I would echo that because, the NFL championship games are coming off, and you think of everything that those guys do just to play 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, and
and
week after week, right? I mean, I think
yeah,
that's the crazy part is the longevity they have to play through as well, right? I mean, 16 weeks plus to get to the Super Bowl. Um, that's a lot. That's a lot of toll on the body. So you got to give your body every chance, every opportunity, every chance. I mean, your body's a machine, but if you're not lubricating it and you're not giving it clean fuel, and you're not, and you're not giving it what it needs to be at its best performance, then those are the questions you have to answer later for yourself.
Yeah, and props to Cameron Hayes. He's taken his passion, one, for physical fitness, two, for hunting. And 20 years ago, people didn't really know who Cameron Hayes is. His name was popping up in some magazines. There were some things happening, but then social media, and then he's turning into a brand. But that's something to aspire to. Not that, because none of us are going to be Cameron Hayes. That's not going to happen. None of us are going to be Aaron Rodgers. Not going to happen. But Brandon Waddell, Bruce Hutchin, we're going to be the best of us that we can be. And that's
right.
where I think the physical fitness really comes in. And, I've had some bumps and bruises along the way, so it's tough right now. But, I'm going to get back to it. And get back in the gym and do the things I can within reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to start, getting back, because it's been almost 90 days, and they didn't want me working out till 90 days has gone by.
Yeah.
But, that's just the way it is.
That is the way it is. You got to give it that chance. I mean, I made that podium, and then my hip deteriorated so fast that I was literally eating ibuprofen like a Pez dispenser. And had I probably been able to get my hands on something better than that, I probably would have, because I was living my days in pain, a lot of pain. I couldn't walk right. I couldn't do anything. I didn't get to go to the national championship, with Train to Hunt to even try to do that. And so then I had that hip surgery, and it's kind of the same scenario for you being in your accident, your rollover, right? I mean, we got to give our bodies time to heal. I mean, I couldn't even walk for a month. I mean, and the doctor, I couldn't lift for 8 months. I couldn't. I mean, I was doing PT, and some of that PT was tough. It was good. It was great mobility work and good. It was great stuff. But I wanted to get back under the steel, right, and get back to some strength training. And he didn't clear me for 8 months. So, you're 90 days out. I mean, it's hard to be patient, right? You want to get back in. You want to
I'm getting fat. I'm getting fat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got chubby. There's no doubt about it. It's like I went to some of the Train to Hunt events this year to encourage some friends and whatnot, and reconnect with some of the community. And hell, I didn't even have a pack on, and I was running up and down the mountain, and I was gassed because I was way out of shape and I was way fat. And, and then even running into Willie Schmidt last week, it was like, man, you're looking good. And I'm like, yeah, cool, thanks. Because, he must have seen a difference between, June and now, which I sure hope people would, because I've been working my butt off. But it's not for everybody else. It's for me, right? I mean, we do this for us because we want to be successful. We want to be comfortable. I want to be better than I was yesterday. And I think the healthier I've been, the more clearly I've been mentally, and I think it's made me a better father, it's made me a better husband, it's made me a better boss. It's encouraged and empowered me to be happier and better in every way of my life. I didn't do it just for hunting. I did it because I want to be in good enough shape that when I have grandkids, I can get on the floor and I can still get back up. That I got grandkids, if they want to go hunt, I can go. That I can maybe lead them into the mountains somewhere, and I might be able to go do their sheep or goat hunt when I'm 60-something years old or 70 years old. And I can still, go with them, and they don't have to worry about me, or they don't have to carry my stuff or whatever. I mean, it's simple. Do it for you, and the rest kind of falls into place,
Thinking about, helping your grandkids, along the way you've helped, there's been some guys that have helped you get into hunting, and Brandon started hunting about 8-9 years ago. And so he had some interesting experiences, and then along the way he's met some guys, and he's better for it. So having said that, let's tell about that story about getting those mentors and what they meant to you.
Well, I'll tell you, when I the first time I got a bow in my hands, Tommy Romero, a good friend of mine who came out to hunt on my property, he shot a really nice deer, and I just wanted to try this whole bow thing. I mean, I'd shot bows when I was in Boy Scouts, but they were just those fiberglass bows that I don't think there was any consistency to trying to fling an arrow out of any of those. But it was fun to try to hit the big old bale. But when I first shot his compound bow, I was like, holy cow, like that is cool. And I was kind of in a place of trying to find some new therapy, if you will. I'd been rolling around on a Harley at triple digits for a long time and going fast because I have a problem with speed. Um, and but I needed a different place to turn the world off. And I really figured out that, man, if you're not in your moment in archery and you're not with each arrow and every time you draw your bow, if you're not in that moment tuning out the rest of the world, then you're not going to shoot real well. And so I ended up figuring out that it was a great place for me just to have quiet time, if you will, and time where I can block out the world and just be in my little space and my little moment. But then I realized that maybe I'd like to hunt with this thing. And so I surrounded myself with a few key people, Lou Webb, John Gardner, Dennis Howell, Tommy Romero, my nephew Jacob Gonzalez, people that have all been hunting a really long time. When I first met Dennis Howell, I never really knew a whole lot about him. But then when I walked into his man shed and started looking around, I'm like, I don't know how many times he's been on the cover of Bowhunter magazine and how many elk he's killed in his life and how many muleys he's killed in his life. I mean, I think he's lived in Colorado 22 years, and I think he's killed a bull 20 out of those 22 years. And same with his muley hunts, and then Lou Webb is a great guy. He's a longbow shooter, real naturalist, and just as pure as they come in the archery form, right? And so he taught me some of that, just being in the woods hunting, that stealthiness and just being patient and becoming one with the forest and slowing down and using your senses and being a part of things. And and along with everybody I mentioned, they all hand me down something. I mean, I'll hunt with anybody at least once, to try to shadow them, if you will, just watch them. There's so much you can learn if you just watch people hunt, especially experienced hunters. There's things they'll never say to you, things they'll never specifically tell you, but if you can watch their body language and watch how they move through the wilderness and how they react, and I mean, it's awesome. Dennis spent a lot of time in the garage teaching me how to bugle. I mean, we'd have full-on conversations like we were elk on each end of the shop, and he'd yell at me, no, that's not how you do it. Listen to me again, So then we tried to have conversations without talking to each other, but then Dennis would be like, no, that doesn't work in this scenario. You can't do that. The bull just left. So you try this. And what's cool was they all gave me a lot of instruction. They all gave me a lot of things, but then they would push me out and say, go hunt. And I'll be like, well, take me hunting. No, I'm not taking you hunting. You go hunt. And I would go hunt, 80% of the archery season. And then I'd call them up and they'd call me and be like, okay, tell me about your hunt. I'm telling them this, tell them that. This is what I did. This is how I beagled. This is how I cow called. This is where I sat. This is where I just dissect my hunts and tell them all about it. And then they'd say, okay, so try this. In this instance, try this. In this instance, try that. Now go again, right? And so, like Lou, I talked to Lou a lot throughout, I don't know, it was 4 years ago, I guess, in my elk hunt. And he's like, you're doing the right things. Just keep after it. Just be confident. Change this, tweak that. Keep going. And finally, the last week of the season, I'd had some encounters. I should have had an elk. I didn't have confidence in my shooting to shoot 42 yards on a good bull. I kept thinking I had to be closer and closer and closer. And Lou being a longbow guy, he'd be like, you got training wheels. I've seen you shoot. Just shoot. You got to have some confidence. Let it go. Let it fly. I know. I've seen you shoot. You can shoot an elk at 42 yards. I'm positive you can. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I think I need to be about 22. And he's like, Brandon, get some confidence. And so, I mean, I hunted 4 years for elk before I got my first elk. And finally Lou says, okay, come to my house. So I went to his house and we went out and about, and he says, I want you to go here and I want you to go there and I want you to cow call over there and I want you to get ready. And I went up there and I cow called, and I cow called this bull in from about a half a mile away, and he came into 12 yards and he gave me that shot. So but since my first bull, I mean, sometimes you just need to, I don't know, from a lack of a better term, pop your cherry, right? And then you're good to go. Like you got this confidence, like you can do it. Like I was able to quarter my first elk and pack it out and do a few things, and it was, I look back on some of that, and you can't replace mentoring somebody. It's the most joy you ever get in your life, and now I'm in the last few years, now I'm in a position where now I'm passing down everything I've learned to my kids. And my kids have killed more animals than I have in the last 2 years. Hands down, they're feeding my family better than I am right now. And you couldn't, that's what this is all about, right? This is what it's about. It's about learning, growing, sharing, passing down what you're learning, passing down what you know, whether it was good or bad or ugly, teaching the younger generations to come up underneath you and be hunters, provide for themselves, have some idea of what it is to be somewhat self-sufficient in this crazy world, right? I can't say enough about, I'm sure I'm leaving people out. I mean, social media has helped me. I mean, when I first got in it, I read every magazine, I read every article, I listened to every podcast. I mean, I'm an archery geek. I shoot every arrow, every bow, every broadhead. I mean, everything I can get my hands on. I got into the local archery shop, and I was just like, figured out a way to make myself family and an unpaid employee so that I could just soak it all up, man, and try to do whatever I could to be better.
Coach, you've heard a couple of different things. One, we didn't talk about whitetail. We talked about elk, but it doesn't matter. If you're looking to become an archery whitetail hunter, then there's people around you, whether you're in North Dakota or Kansas, it really doesn't matter, that will help you if you meet them 3/4 of the way. They're not going to do it for you. As you've heard Brandon say, he had to go out and get pounded and keep making mistakes. That made him better. He didn't realize it at the time, but it made him a hell of a lot better, because then he'd come back and listen to the Quiet Eight, his guys, and then it makes sense. He's, oh yeah, okay, I did that, and that didn't work, but here's why it didn't work. And the same thing with archery, whitetail hunting. We have more and more people. I just read an article in the Milwaukee Journal today that for the first time ever, crossbows have superseded compounds in harvesting whitetails. And a couple of reasons for that. One, because kids can do it. Two, disabled people can do it. Women can do it a lot easier. They can shoot a crossbow a lot easier than a compound. They're easier to shoot. There's no question about it. But you still have to be a hunter. I've had this conversation in many, many bars in Wisconsin. Oh, you shoot a crossbow. Yeah, I shoot an Excalibur crossbow. But that doesn't change. I can go to the same stand you have, and the deer still has to come by. It doesn't change anything how you are as a hunter. It just gives you a better opportunity, I think, if you practice with it, to harvest the game, to kill the game. But, just apply what Brandon said and look around, because there's guys right in your neighborhood that are really good, but you'll never know that they're really good.
That's right.
You have to find them, and then be sincere enough to say, okay, how do you do this? How do you take the best buck in the river valley every single year? And they're not going to tell you today.
No,
They're not going to tell you today.
no,
So
they're
don't get
not.
disappointed. Don't get disappointed. But over the months and years, yeah, this you'll have an opportunity to learn, and if you learn, then your day will come.
That's right. And I think the biggest thing when you're going to learn from these people is you check your ego at the door. Um, you got to go in there humble, teachable, and you got to try new things that they tell you to do. If you're not willing to change your setup or change your gig or change how you call or do different things, then if you're not going to give 3 weeks to 4 weeks for the change to settle in and how you hold your bow or maybe what release you use or whatever, if you're not willing to give it a chance, then most of these guys are just going to be like, well, then just go do it your way, you know. So you always, I just think that you always got to show them the respect and go push yourself. Go try. You got to try. If you're not trying and you're not putting it out there, then they're not going to teach you. And I think that when you really put the hard effort in and you're really eager and sincere about what you're trying to learn and what you're trying to do, they'll recognize that and they'll help you out. And then, you know, a lot of these guys are quiet. I mean, even some of the guys that I've interviewed on the podcast from Pope and Young, I mean, these guys, they are not egotistical. They're quiet. I mean, you got guys that have done a sheep slam 3 times, and if you ask them how many times they've done it, they're not going to tell you 3 times. They're just going to tell you, well, I've done it a few times. They are always humble and downplay their accolades. They're what I call the quiet giants of the industry, right? They're not, they're writing good articles for people's magazines, doing some things like that, but very rarely do you see them on the cover of something. Very rarely do you see them, playing the Hollywood style of the industry. And those people mean a lot to me. Those people, those they attract me, big time. And yeah, it doesn't matter what you're hunting, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what you're using. Get out in the wilderness and give it a shot. Hone your craft. Be your best. The animal deserves that for you to be as good as you possibly can be. And, it doesn't matter. You still got to find an animal. You still got to hunt. You still got to play the wind. You still have to execute the shot. There's lots involved. I mean, technology's going crazy in the industry right now, right? And there's a lot of scuttlebutt going around in different things that's, not a primitive situation anymore. But you still got to get in there. You still got to make it happen. I mean, if you're shooting any kind of stick and string, regardless of whether it's got training wheels or not, or it's, vertical or horizontal, it don't matter. You got to go out there and hunt. You still have to do your part.
Yeah, well said. Have you ever had Jim Willems on your show?
Jim has dodged me a few times. In fact, he lives just in Farmington, New Mexico, right? And
Right.
um, he's real close, and I run into him a lot, and I keep asking him, and he tells me anytime, basically. Let's just put it that way. He tells me anytime you want to have me on, I'm on. But then you call him and you try to get into his schedule, and that is crazy. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who's linked in this industry and doing a lot of good work for it. Between Pope and Young and Four Corners SCI and CBA and good Lord, I don't know how many groups he's involved in and plus committees he's on and everything. He's a busy guy. Plus he's trying to hunt. I mean, I just saw him and we both had a New Mexico archery tag in the beginning of January, and he told me to call him sometime about this week and we'd finally get it penciled in and get it done. So hopefully.
Folks, Jim Willems is the president of Pope and Young, and
Right.
I've been fortunate to have him on the show, and he's a great guest, and he's one of these guys that, as Brandon just said, what he's done with traditional archery gear is just, you'd go, no way, not one person couldn't have done what he's done. Well, he's done it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, between Lou and some of these guys that are and John Gardner, Jim Willems, I mean, these guys are total traditional guys, and they keep trying to talk me into going back to a trad bow. And man, I don't know if I want to. I'm not sure if I want to go through those. I just remember all too well those first 4 years of hunting and never killing nothing, and it was so defeating that I don't know if I'm mentally ready to go back to a place like that again. I'm enjoying my training wheel success at this point, and I'm gonna ride that out a little further.
Well, I'll jump in your buddy's camp and just say you know how to hunt now. And there's guys. I think of Marv Clanky. Exceptional traditional archer, and that's all he's hunted with. And he said, Bruce, it's about patience. It's about hunting, and I don't care what you have in your hand. If you practice with it, you're going to get the deal done. And it doesn't matter. Yeah. Are you going to shoot 42 yards with a stick and a string? Probably not. But probably not. But then just think of the rush when you have that bull over your shoulder at 22 yards.
Well,
That's exciting. That's
yeah,
exciting.
That's exciting, man. I mean,
that's exciting.
I have yet to get a bull as close as 12 yards again, like my first one. And Dallas Smith I had on the podcast early in April, and everything he said to me resonated. I mean, man, I'll tell you what, when a bull comes in and he's close to you and he screams, it sets your soul on fire. I mean, I'm getting chicken skin right now just thinking about it, man. It's one of my favorite things because obviously we're very fortunate to have the amount of numbers we have of elk in Colorado, and I'm super lucky. I can be 35 minutes from my house and I'm in a honey hole with elk, and so it's hard not to want to do that. But I'll tell you what, I give a shout out to all the whitetail guys, man. I mean, I've had people say to me, "Oh, well, there's nothing to that. They just go sit in a stand and they just this and that." And I'm like, man, in the elk woods, you can move, you can make noise, you can do all this stuff and still get close to elk. There's a certain amount of grit and a certain amount of patience that comes with whitetail hunting that I'm not sure I have, because I can't sit in a tree stand all day. I can't wait for that opportunity to walk by. I like to stalk stuff, spot and stalk, and chase things and do that kind of. I'm way more ADD than I ever thought I was until I got into hunting, and then I realized that maybe that's a real deal, this ADD kid, because I like chasing squirrels and rabbits. I was like the next thing. So I give a shout out to a lot of those whitetail guys. I don't know how they do it sometimes. I mean, they're so smart. I think all the animals in the wilderness have a connection and a sixth sense, if you will. But I think whitetail are like the Rain Man of big game, right? I mean, they're off the chart connected. It's like even if a leaf's out of place, they know it,
Truth. I mean, everything you said is truth, and they can do magic tricks on 40 acres. No, you and I both live in Colorado. 40 acres is nothing.
Nope.
Is absolutely, positively nothing.
Well, I just try to hunt mule deer on my 40 acres, and that's a challenge in itself too. But I couldn't imagine whitetail. I mean, they're just a whole nother level of hunting that I've never had the experience of doing. But hopefully here in the next couple of years, I'm going to get that opportunity. And I really look forward to the challenge, and I really look forward to just learning the animals and being in their presence. And at this point, if I can sit in a tree stand all day and I can watch a good 8-point walk by at 100 yards and I actually get to see him and maybe hear him grunt or something, that would be success for me.
Dan Johns would say with Nine Finger Chronicles, he'd say, because he hunts run and gun, so he sees that there's a perfect little illustration. So he sees that buck at 100 yards, right, on a ridge tarp, and he's rutting, he's grunting, and he's doing whatever he's going to do. So then he'll spin up, and he'll put a tree stand in there that, noontime.
Right.
And he'll go back that evening and hunt it, and he'll hunt it for 2 or 3 times, either deer comes through and he gets it or not. So that's being adaptive, and that's no different than you what do with elk hunting.
Right,
You
true.
see that bull, you see the water hold, you see the scrapes, you see all the sign is similar. What you want is those smoking hot, pellets. You know, they're
Right.
you want the green ones in this squish, and they're hot, and then you put them on your boots and everything, because you're in literally hundreds of yards of a live breathing elk.
Right.
You know,
I like listening to the stories of whitetail guys where they're like they put a stand over here and then the deer walks under where they were. And then so they put their stand back over here and then the deer walks over and they're just constantly moving their stand around because the deer it's like they're always a day
they
behind
know. Yeah,
on the
they know.
pattern, you know.
They,
Yeah, it's
they,
just
they
crazy.
entirely know. I remember the first time, a long time ago, that I hunted out west, and we hunted with an outfitter out here in Colorado. And we were all from Wisconsin, drove out from Wisconsin. He says, "I love having you Wisconsin boys here." And we were archery hunting. And we go, "Why?" He says, "Do you understand how to hunt elk?" I've never hunted elk. you know he
Right.
said, but you understand the patience, and how to look, just like you were saying, how to move through the forest, how to look and see things that are there when you can't see them there. I mean,
Right.
all these different things. And I always remembered that, because the traits that we learned, if we were a successful whitetail hunter, then if you applied them out west, you had a really good chance of seeing elk. I'm not saying killing elk.
Yep. I
I'm
think
saying
I think
seeing elk.
you're right. I mean, whitetail hunters are some of the top, right? And then if they can come out west, I think that to circle back, just if you're coming out west and you're going to start jumping from 1,000 feet to 9,000 feet, 10,000 hunting elk, then that's where we circle back to the idea that you better be in a little better shape, right? And you got to have a little bit of a game plan in that area. Um, or at least have a few days to acclimate before you just get after it. So, otherwise, I think as far as hunting ability and techniques and different things, they definitely have it figured out to be able to come and hunt elk. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, because you actually read the sign, and it's larger, because we're talking hundreds of acres, thousands of acres, rather than
Mhm.
the 40 acres type
Exactly.
thing. But the sign's still there. If the elk are there, now if there's no elk, if there's no sign, guess what? There ain't no elk.
Then go.
Get out of there.
That was one of the first things that these guys taught me is like if you get somewhere and you're not in fresh sign, then get out of there. Go somewhere else. It don't matter if you go to 10 places in 5 days. Don't stop until you're in fresh elk sign. Just because you just go march around the woods with your bow. I mean, go figure it out right from the beginning, right? But that's what they taught me over 4 years is how to hunt smarter, not harder. And that's what a good mentor does for you. He doesn't do it for you. He lets you learn the hard way, and then he slowly teaches you how to be the best.
Yeah, but and whitetail hunters, think about what he just said. So you don't see any sign. You see old sign. You see sign that's left a rub that's been there for 5 years, but they're just not there. Why? Because the food had changed. Why? Because the water has changed. Why? Because there was a forest fire. The gazillion different things. They just cut a new road through. All these things impact where those whitetails are going to be. And if you go back to the same stand that Uncle John shot at 20 bucks in a row, and sit it, likely that it's not going to produce, because they
Huh.
changed.
Yeah, their corridors or travel corridors change all the time for, like you said, multiple reasons. Weather, moisture, food, development, um, pressure. There's lots of factors that go into how this changes. I mean, I have never found the same success year after year after year in the same hole. There's always been a variance of success in each spot. So I always like to think that you should always have, a repertoire of places to be, and you got to spend your summer scouting and figuring out which of your repertoire is going to play out this year. Because whether for us in the high country, whether we've had a lot of rain or not much rain, or is the food really green at 12.5 or is it at 10? Did the acorns get frozen this year, so there's no acorns? Um, you know, it just changes all of their movement. I mean, for instance, we don't have much snow this year. We have a very poor snow, and We usually get a few late deprivation tags out where I live for my kids to get their feet wet and hunting elk, right? And we haven't seen any elk until the 1st of January down low. They literally have not pulled off the mountain. I spoke with a biologist that works for Southern Ute, and them elk did their normal time frame and migrated down, and they realized that it was dry. There was nothing down there. They went back up to 12,000 feet on the Continental Divide and stayed there until close to Christmas, and they didn't come down. There's Purgatory Ski Resort there outside of Durango, north of us, right? They've been skiing on 2 or 3 runs of man-made snow with a little bit of dusting of some nature snow. And just 2 weekends ago, the majority of the elk came off the hill and went across through Purgatory and destroyed the ski runs because they just now came down. Um, and so this is the first year in 9 years that I didn't have a cow in one of those deprivation tags even killed in October or November or December. And we just now got a couple in the last 6, 7 days because they finally came through. So it's every year it's different. You got to figure it out. You got to adapt. There's nothing set in stone when it comes to hunting any North American animal, in my opinion. So
One thing Brandon just said, and I call it game plan. And whether you're hunting out west or you're hunting the Midwestern states, you got to have a game plan. If this happens, then I need to be here. And the only way they can do that is you've been boots on the ground. You know, okay, typically if this is set up, they should be here, 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 3 places or 5 places. And you know that. And it's the same thing with whitetails. If we have a really hard forest early, that's going to kill the acorns. It's going to put the crops differently. And you have to be prepared. That's one thing that just drives me crazy, even with my own crew in Wisconsin. They do the same thing year in, year out, year in, year out. They
yeah, I
go,
mean,
they
it's the
look at me,
definition. It's the definition of insanity. You can't go to the same camp every year and expect to get the same result.
but they've killed deer. I mean,
Yeah,
they've killed deer, and they look at me and they said, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "One, I don't want to kill the deer that you're killing." I said, "Kill them all. I don't, whatever you want to kill, kill." I'm after a specific age class of deer, and I have to do completely different than what we did before. Well, how come you're doing that? Because I want to.
yeah, because that's my choice as a hunter,
Yeah,
right?
because I want to.
That's right. I'm by no means when it comes to elk and mule deer. I mean, I'm a little pickier on mule deer, I have to say, because we got a lot of good mule deer. So you can take a little bit of time, and we've got good numbers, and so I don't usually shoot the first mule deer I see. But when it comes to elk, I don't know how many times if I call in a legal bull and it gives me a 40-yard shot, I'm taking it. I'm gonna make the shot. A lot of guys they're shooting for them real mature, super big, like this guy right here, right? They're looking for that top-notch bull that's very mature and has done his part, right? But man, I'm a carnivore. I like to eat, and I raised 9 children, and I still have 4 at home, and they're all carnivores too. And so, I shoot the first bull elk that gives me first legal bull elk that gives me a shot. I try to make the shot. I don't hesitate. I just figure someday I'm gonna call in this guy. Someday he'll be the one that presents me that shot. But until then, man, I'm gonna have a good time. I'm gonna hunt and I'm gonna harvest and I'm gonna eat and I'm gonna make memories and I'm gonna have a good time. And I don't care if it's on the first day of season or the last day of season. It's all good with me. It's not easy to kill an elk. I mean, we only have an 11% success rate over the counter archery bull tag in Colorado. 11%. So I don't know how people can be picky. This is me.
And we're gonna wrap up the show with what you just said, and I'm gonna put, it's about yourself, but it's about having fun. It's about the experience. It's about the adventure. It's about just sitting there and watching the sun come up and watching the sun go down, and you haven't I've sat in basins the whole day and just watched. And it's amazing what you can see. But when you think of that, I mean, there's no video in the world of Pursuit or Sportsman Channel or anything can touch that. Absolutely none. It doesn't exist because you can't capture that event. You can try to, but you can't capture it. So it's all about the fun, that we're imparting and, that you look forward to and sharing it and all those type of things. But that's what hunting is. It's a tradition that we own. It's ours. It's a tradition. And it's also some rights to do it ethically, and morally and all those things that we've got to make sure our house is in order there. But having said that, it's about the adventure. I haven't killed an elk in a long time, and I've been in some wonderful mountains, and I haven't closed the deal. Luck is kind of catching up to me or whatever.
Right.
But it's still good because now, just like sitting on that basin, it's just like, are you kidding me?
Right. How grand is this, right?
Yeah, you can't. I was with a guy from Chicago, and he had come out with a friend, and I said, "No, we'll go up here and there, and blah blah blah." So we climb up to about 11,000 feet, and break out of the timber, and there is Mount Scorpius, and then you can see the Maroon Bells. I mean, you can see everything, dusted in snow. I said, I can guarantee you, nobody from Chicago, Illinois, has ever stood where you're standing.
That's right.
And seen that.
Yep. That's a fact. You can watch all the shows you want. Even the best cinematographers cannot replace what you can see with your own two eyes and hear with your own ears and smell with your own nose and then also having gone there with your own 2 feet. No one can do that for you, right? So you gotta get out there. You gotta get in the wilderness. You gotta get off the couch, disconnect, find a way, reach out. There's people locally that'll help you, like you said earlier. Your pro shop. Join a local sportsman's club. Anything. I encourage people to do something very small locally. Get involved in your state archery or state whatever, and then do something nationally. Or if you have a passion for a certain animal, go out there and find it. Join that club, but reach out. Get out, go do it, find that for yourself, and don't be afraid. You can do it.
Well said. And how do people reach out to you if they want to ask you a question, Brandon?
You can email me at wildernessattitude@gmail.com, or you can go to the website and there's a link there to connect with us as well. You can find me on Instagram, Wilderness Attitude Podcast, same with Facebook, anywhere in there. You can DM me a message, send me a request. We're on it daily. We love interacting with people. So if you have any questions about Colorado, you have any questions about me, anything, I'm a very open, very transparent, very humble, very honest person. I love to talk to people. If I don't have your answer, I will find someone who has your answer, and I will definitely get it to you.
Thanks for that. This is Bruce Hudson, the host of Whitetail Rendezvous. Reach out to me at whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. Listen to my podcast at whitetailrendezvous.com. And on behalf of thousands of people that are going to listen to the show, Brandon Waddell, thank you so much, sir, for taking your time and sharing some insider tips.
Well, I hope it's helpful to somebody, but thanks for having me on, Bruce. I really appreciate it. It's really a pleasure to get to know you and follow you, and you're an inspiration for me and my podcast. Thanks so much for paving the way for some of us.
You're welcome.